So as you go up to check her, Barry, you see that she's kind of sitting in the throne itself. Her hand is out as if she's holding the scepter and just sort of staring off. And there's some argument in the court and whatnot, and Uthar kind of looks down and sees you, Barry, there, and he says, "What are you doing?"
Trying to help her. She looks like she's paralyzed.
Of course. And he kind of reaches down and he sort of scoops her up in his arms. And as he pulls her out of the seat, she kind of moans and goes, "Ugh. Oh, thank you, Uthar. What happened?" And the whole court kind of quiets at this point. Uthar says, "Mithra took your scepter."
Do we think that Mithra was the dragon?
What dragon?
I think Milton's like the only one who thinks that.
I think she's a dragon.
Why do you think he's a dragon?
I can't wrap my head around that kind of stuff, so I don't understand it.
Sarissa says to you, she says, "Gray folk, why? Why do you think that she's a dragon?"
Well, I saw blue scales, and it stared at me, and it looked just like the stare that I got from the dragon while we were in the temple.
Imarith, the blue dragon who went into the temple. And her skin is blue.
It is. You guys do remember, too, that Imarith the dragon had a large horn on her forehead.
Well, we remember that now.
I know. I think Melton might remembered it earlier, but yes, you now remember it now. And she kind of looks around. She says, You mean to tell me that our closest advisors for centuries is a dragon?"
Maybe she's impersonating the person that you were expecting, but she's obviously, well, bad. She stole your scepter.
Right. And she knows that is the scepter that controls everything.
Everything?
Not everything, but a lot.
What do you mean, everything?
The scepter is so important to us. She says, "I believe you. I do." And she looks to the court, and the court's kind of all standing there, kind of looking towards her, and she says, "These small folk they've risked everything to come see us, right? I mean, how can their story not be true? It's got to be true." She looks to Uthgar. I don't think that these folks here killed my mom. I don't think that they kidnapped my father. Somebody has done it. I don't think it's them."
It was probably that dragon.
You hear some kind of grumblings behind and whatnot. Maybe the dragons are still upset with our assistance of earlier and a few years ago to help them. Maybe that's why. Kind of hear more discussion kind of behind. You see that Sarissa is just kind of shaking her head, and Uthar's like, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" Finally, she looks to you guys, and she says, "Can you help me find my father?"
Yes. Do you know that he's been captured? That's what Mestra said.
She looks to the rest of the court, and she says, "Except for Uthar, everybody out." And you hear the sister say, But, Sarissa, we're always out, everybody." And you see the storm guards kind of start issuing people out, and the rest of the group leave, but the two sisters are there, and Miriam's like, "But you told us we'd always be," and they're like, "Out." And Nim says, "I am the oldest. I should know what's happening with our father." Sarissa says, "Please, escort her out and close the door." And they escort her out and they close the door. Sarissa looks to you guys and says, "I have something. I don't know who knows what, but it may help you guys. You're going to help me, right?"
Of course.
With the
Yes,
proper plot
we'll
hook,
do
we
what
will.
we can.
Right? She, you see her kind of reach into, kind of where her bra or inside the bosom. She pulls out a tiny little, looks almost like what you guys would in your hand would be almost like a piece of glitter or something super tiny. And she squeezes it between her two fingers and she reaches down and she hands it to Stig. And Stig, she offers for you to open your hand.
I open it up.
She drops this into your hand.
It's a golden goose.
She says, I don't know what this means, but when my father was taken, this was left.
This is
Sorry,
a golden,
not
golden
father.
goose token, I think.
When my mother was killed, this was found next to my mother. Not my father, sorry. The storm giant found it and gave it to me. He thought it belonged to my mom, but my mom doesn't have this. I never told anybody about it.
Milton, does this match the ones you have?
What? That is the golden duck.
It means something to you?
Well, yes, I that's where I won a bunch of money from them.
Why would it be by my mom?
Where did your mom die?
The Red Rocks. Between the Mare as well as Waterdeep. My father was with her at the time. She had gone to see the small folk like she always does. Typically to say hi or, generally to help them or whatnot, bring them food if they need it. Well, if you know where it's from, I think the people who murdered my mom, maybe even took my father, are associated with that place.
It's a gambling boat. It was in Yartar, but it left Yartar.
Gambling boat? For giants? Giants don't gamble.
No, for humans, but there was
So it is run by the Lord's Alliance then. They were right, weren't they?
No, it's not run by the Lord's Alliance.
No?
But the boat, we did notice that it had barnacles on it, and we thought that it might have came from the south. So if your mother died on the Red Rocks,
Yeah.
It's run by a man named Lord Dryland.
Dryland. The name doesn't sound familiar to me. I don't know that name.
And it's on the barge itself. The boat itself is called the Grand Dane.
I don't know that boat either. My mom never made any comment about it. I don't know anything about that either. So you need to go to Yartar then.
No, it left Yartar. The last thing we heard was that Lord Dryland left town and headed to Waterdeep via a griffin. And I think we heard that the boat went north out of Yartar.
that's what we think.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of anything named the Kraken Society?
Kraken Society? I mean, I've heard of a kraken. They live in the sea. I mean, we've not seen one in a long time. Society? Nothing that I've heard of, at least for us. Maybe you small folk know something about that?
How about Skarkathel?
Skarkathel.
He's the boss of the Kraken Society. The information we have is that they were centered somewhere off the coast of Waterdeep, and that they believe that everything should return to the sea. Supposedly, they haven't really been heard from in about 400 years. And we got this information from, I don't know, I think we got it from reading a book or something from Usith when we were following Lady Italia. I don't remember how we got this actual information.
You hear Uthar kind of looks to Sarissa and he says, that name is very old, and I am sure that Skethrel is dead. I mean, he was centuries old back then. There's no way he's still around.
So you know this person.
No, and he's not a person. It's a kraken. That was its
Wait,
name.
Skarkathel was a kraken?
Yeah, but he hasn't been around for hundreds of years. I mean, nobody's seen him.
What's a kraken?
A creature you better hope you never see.
Okay,
You think
I've
we're
never
big?
been to the sea.
You think
so
we're
I don't,
big?
I don't know.
Think about 6 of us lined up in a row, and then add 6 of those as tentacles. The thing will eat ships in no time. Destroys everything in its path.
Is it a creature, or is it like a humanoid like us?
No, it's a creature. Very big creature.
And does it talk and communicate?
Nobody's been close enough to it to know if it talks or communicates. The king has court sometimes with some of the creatures of the sea, and they can talk to him with the scepter as well as the throne, but only they are the ones. Honestly, he looks to Sarissa. I think this is a goose chase. We've not heard that name in decades, centuries.
Well, why would we bring this information to you if it was a wild goose chase? And there just happens to be geese on these tokens.
It all comes together. He's like, well, it's probably somebody who is worshiping them like a god, but they're not around anymore. I mean, we don't see the gods, right?
Did your kind, the storm giants, have any kind of conflict or anything like that with
Never.
Skarkathel?
Never. We lived in harmony. We all did. We ruled the sea and they were underneath us. There was no issues.
They were... So you ruled them?
Of course, just like we rule all the giants. We'll rule them again. Once Arnon figures out that we are the true rulers of the giants. I don't know why he bashed this ordning anyways. It's silly. Makes no sense. We're good and just rulers. Can you imagine hill giants running this place? Oh my goodness.
Oh, that would be horrible. They're disgusting.
Exactly.
No offense.
Exactly. I'm sorry, Sarissa. I didn't mean to speak out of turn. She pats Uthor on the shoulder. You're a wise man, Uthor. She says, well, you can keep the coin. And, I think if you find my dad, I want you to return, please. Or at least some information about him.
We do have one small problem. We don't have a way out of here.
She smiles. I can help you with that. Where would you like to go?
I'm thinking Waterdeep. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, do we need to return this conch?
She says, no, keep the conch. That way you can return to me when you found out where my father is. Otherwise, you'll never be able to get back here.
Well, can you talk with...
Sasori?
Sansuri and tell her that we're keeping her conch and that you said it was okay? Because didn't we tell her we'd bring it back?
I'll send an emissary to let her know.
We will eventually give it back to her.
Sansuri, huh? Interesting people to align with.
Well, it's not like we're
This is-
aligned with them. The Oracle just told us to go there and get her conch.
Yeah, it was the path that the Oracle set us on.
I like this oracle more and more every day. She said, so Waterdeep is where you'd like to go?
Yeah, I don't know if we have any other leads than Waterdeep. I mean, Waterdeep's the only town or actual location we've got, right?
Yeah, we could go back to Yartar and see about that Kraken thing.
Well, wouldn't we get more information about the Kraken from Waterdeep, since supposedly it was off the coast of Waterdeep?
Well,
Is
but the
where they
Kraken
operate.
Society was based in Yartar.
No, it was based off the coast of Waterdeep. Well,
We
I mean,
just
the
found
original
out
one
about
was.
it off of the gambling ship.
Right.
So whoever's running the gambling ship are involved somehow with the Kraken Society.
Yeah, the note I have is off the coast of Waterdeep, almost like a thieves' guild. Everything should return to the sea. Haven't been heard from for 400 years.
Everybody left Yartar associated with them, I think.
Yeah, we thought they went north, but they could have turned and came back south. We don't know. I think Waterdeep.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, what about our flying ship? If we had the flying ship, we could cruise the water and find them. Maybe we should go back there.
Well, we can go to Waterdeep and start our investigation, and I can send an animal messenger to hail the ship.
Yeah, that works.
I think we have a sending scroll.
I think
Yep,
you do.
I have a sending scroll.
That might be quicker, and that way we wouldn't have to wait for the bird or whatever you send, because that could take weeks, right?
So, Sarissa,
Yes.
it is my understanding that when we help the cloud giants, or when we meet the storm giants, excuse me, we can rub your leg and you will grant us any magical item in the DM's guide.
She smiles and she says,
This is something that I heard.
she says, only if you bring back my father.
Oh,
Then you get the Sword of Holy Avenger and the Deck of Many Things.
I don't think
Deal.
we want the deck of many things.
One of those-
Unless maybe Milton's pulling cards.
Yeah, right.
Melton, this will be fantastic. We have a deal.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Is there anything you can give us to aid us in our journey?
She says, all I have is the token that we talked about. She said the other thing is that I'm happy to teleport you. You're looking for treasure, I understand? Is that what you're looking for?
No, I am.
Yes.
I am looking for Melton. I am looking for anything that might aid us if we do come across this Kraken that you talk about, and Uthor, you say it's bigger than 10 of you or 6 of you in a row. That will be quite the battle for small folk. Plus, we have battled the ancient blue dragon by ourselves before, and without the aid of Harshnag, we would not have gotten out alive. And another one of our members has decided to take a vacation
Yes, but we're stronger
and
now.
polish his armor.
Yeah, we were only like level 6 or 7 then.
Yeah, we're stronger now. I think we'll be fine.
She says, I understand it is at great risk for you small folk. I don't recommend attacking a dragon, if that's what you're talking about. You could, I suppose, but, obviously find my father and come back. That's really what I'm looking for, right? She says, but 1 minute. And she says, Uthar, I'll be right back, okay? And he says, okay. And you see her kind of walk into the back, and she kind of disappears around a corner, kind of all the way down the south side, and disappears into the corner. And she comes back out, and she's holding what appears to be a small, looks like a piece of paper or a scroll. And she brings it over, and she comes to you, Relenia, and she hands you a scroll. She says, I think this will help if you get into trouble. Dad said that this was one that clerics would use if something happened.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We will do our best, and we will find, or we will try our best to find your father and bring him home.
You see that on the front of it, there's some inscriptions that are there in giant. And if you show it to Melton and Stig, it says, "Bring back the dead."
Oh, I thought it said break seal in case I'm kidnapped.
That would have been a lot better if I was that smart, but I'm obviously not. So it's a scroll of resurrection. And then she says, please, follow me. She kind of goes around the statue. Uthor stands right there because he knows that Melton is a sneaky little guy.
Oh, one more thing, my lady.
Yes.
Do you maybe have some sort of paper or seal or something that would tell other giants that we are working for or with the giants? It might help us with further confrontation with your kin.
She looks back to Uthar, and then she looks to you guys. She says, if you meet with storm giants, tell them that you work with Queen Sarissa. I hate using that term. And you should have no
We're
issues.
gonna name drop.
Yeah. She says, but as for the other giants, with the ordning being shattered, I'm afraid outside the Maelstrom I don't have any power. I'm sorry, I wish I did. They don't dare do anything against me here, but if I leave the Maelstrom, I'm just as fair game as the rest of them.
Well, but you treat or meet with all these other giants. They don't work with you?
No, they're looking.
I mean, fire and stone and...
They're here looking for weaknesses, trying to find out what we're doing to try to restore the ordning so that they can vest us in power. Trust me, all those people out there are not my friends.
I see.
It's like high school.
Kind of is. Kind of. She kind of points you. So as you guys come around, you see that Uthor is protecting a room, and in that room you see what looks like a bunch of 34 rusty anchors kind of hanging from the ceiling. And from each of the iron chains, you see that these anchors are kind of all there, and then there's crates and barrels, and there's a massive sea chest, and there's two almost they look like sea anemones, which are kind of like those things on coral reefs that you see that are just sort of swaying in the corner there. And you see he's kind of protectively guarding the entrance to prevent anybody from entering in. You see there's a stairways that goes up to the north, and then to the west, I'm sorry, and then to the east you see there's a kind of a beautiful natural kind of formed cave. It's got bioluminescent lichen and coral snails, starfish that are clinging again to the walls, but they seem to be much more attached to the walls at this point. Relenia, as you start to enter this room, you see that there's auras of multiple types of different magic that sort of overlap. There's conjuration and divination, evocation, and they just kind of keep going over each other over and over inside this room. Anybody that's a spellcaster also, which is the whole group now, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So you all feel kind of this presence of this omnipresence of just strong magic that kind of is here. And she enters and she says, please come in.
Sorry, I was writing notes.
Oh, no problem. She kind of reaches down and she points out like her index finger to each of you, and she says, please, everybody grab onto my finger. Circle now. Form a circle.
Pull it.
I've heard this joke before.
She's like,
Not from a storm giant. You know? And it was chilly night tonight too.
so you guys all hold on, and you suddenly, she kind of says, "Water deep, right?"
Yes.
You suddenly feel the sensation of the waves coming up again, where you see kind of the glimmering of the walls and whatnot, and there's that bright starry type picture where flashes of lights and everything, and you guys kind of see the appearance of what appears to be the side of the sea, or the shore, the seashore, and the large city of Waterdeep. It is daytime, kind of getting towards the evening. As you appear, Sarissa's there with you, kind of still holding hands with you along the edge of the beach, and you guys can see that the gate entrance is maybe, I don't know, a quarter of a mile away to enter the south gate of Waterdeep. She looks around and she says, as you requested, "Please return quickly with news of my father and who killed my mother. I don't really trust anybody in the court anymore. Uthar, maybe. I mean, I don't think he'd ever do anything. He raised me, but I don't trust anybody else. So please don't report anything to anybody but me."
And are you gonna send someone to search for Mithra? What was her name?
Mithra?
Mithra.
I have no idea where she is or what happened. I won't allow her to come back to here. She doesn't have a conch, so I'm not worried about that, or to the Maelstrom.
Well, what does having the scepter do for her?
Well, it prevents me from ruling, but it definitely gives her not a lot of powers without the throne. But I really don't want to get into the details. It doesn't do much for her right now, but it probably will if she gets the throne, and I need the scepter back. My father needs the scepter back. I'm sorry, not me. My father's still alive. I know he is, right?
Right.
Right.
We'll find him, and you just be on the lookout and be extra vigilant in case Mithra comes back. Mistra comes back.
And she says, and I know in my heart the Lord's Alliance didn't kill my mother, but gotta admit, she died along the seashore, selling seashells. And she,
Watch out for Sally.
thank you. I think she's in Yartar. So she kind of nods to each of you and sort of stands up, and as she stands up, you hear immediately from the walls the guards kind of blow horns, which sound of alarm, and she quickly shimmers and disappears.
I've never been to the ocean before. I think I'm more confused now than before we went there.
It became very confusing, huh?
Does anybody think that this whole ordning and giant thing is kind of working out like a soap opera?
What's a soap opera?
It has something to do with soap.
I highlighted the red rocks on your map. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it yet, but that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Obviously, I think this is a great place for us to stop for the night. You guys are in Waterdeep, or soon to be in Waterdeep.
Cool, cool.
So you guys had met Sarissa's mother?
Oh, that's right. You weren't there for the first
previously?
week.
No.
So the way
No,
we...
I met everybody in Golden Fields.
That's right. So when we first started the campaign, the way it worked is each person had sort of an experience prior to the group, and is I think a lot has already figured out that each story has sort of, each thing that happened to them has tied into the story itself. So
Right.
Stig met with who was it you met with, Stig, again? You met with the daughter and the queen, right?
2 daughters and the queen, I think.
Yeah,
And that was Nim and Miriam
right. And Sarissa too. He met Sarissa as well.
and Sarissa. Yeah.
And the queen. So And then Bailey, I can't remember yours. Do you remember what yours was?
My vision?
Yeah.
It was about the sword and the shield
Do you remember the
and
one?
the dragons.
Yeah, right. Yep. And then do you remember going even farther back? I don't know if you remember like the very first day. Was there something about being in a temple and seeing a blue dragon? Do you remember that? Maybe not.
Yes, it was gargoyles moving around me,
Yep.
but I was ignoring them, and there was a gigantic blue dragon.
Correct. Yep. And there was some discussion there, and then the dragon saw you and said, "I see you peeking," and then you kind of got sucked back through, kind of like a portal type of thing.
And I also saw something named, it looked like a sea creature with rows and rows and rows of teeth,
Correct.
and it was something like Slackeriel.
Correct. That's right. Or Slockerel. Slockerthrall. I can't say it correctly. And then Brian, do you remember what yours was? Brian's probably
No
asleep.
clue.
Oh no! Brian met Harshnag. He met Harshnag coming out of the Underdark. He was
That's right. That's right.
he was traveling in the Underdark, and Harshnag was with Force Grey, and they were trying to get out, and they couldn't remember how to open up the door. And they were kind of joking with their thief, saying he wasn't very good, and Melton came and helped them out. And then Williams was he had met Klauth, the Great Red Worm, when he was a kid outside of his town, and Klauth had actually talked to him and said, you know, brave little one, your bloodline serves you well. You don't know what it is to fear. You should tell your friends you went nose to nose with old Snarl. Sorry, I didn't have one for you, Orlenia.
Oh, that's all right.
So yeah, so that's why they've all had kind of little bits and pieces of the story before actually the story started.
So, Stig, do you believe, or do you have a reason to believe that the sisters killed the mother? It kind of seemed like maybe you were kind of questioning down that line at one point.
I was just trying to figure out who had something to gain from the mother dying. It seemed like the sisters were sketchy.
All right.
Holy smokes. What level are we now? We're 9th,
9.
right? All right, good. I just want to make sure. Okay, you're still 9th. Anyways, cool. Excellent session. Thanks, guys. Sorry, wasn't a lot of combat again.
Oh, we actually talked ourselves out of the combat. That's unusual.
It is.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. So I know that
I don't know if we could have beaten that one. You know, once
everybody showed up.
Felglos. Yeah, and once Felglos, he took a couple really big hits, and I mean, he made it for like a round and a half with like 4 hit points. So.